Hello there, how is everyone? I hope you're all well, you amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. And it's the midweek hump, baby. It's the midweek hump, we made it. We absolutely made it, and you're looking absolutely amazing for it. And you know why? Because it's the midweek hump and everybody loves a midweek hump. Anyway, this video, now what I will say, I'm going to premise this video by saying, look, in the description of this video there is a link to a video done by our man Pavarati. Have I got that right this time? And it's J Ombre channel. Link in description. After this video, go and check out that video. Now, I had already put some notes together to do a video on this topic yesterday. I wake up this morning and see that Pav has done this video, and he put it together a lot better than I would have done. Okay, I've got to say that. Covering the same points, but he absolutely smashes it out of the park. So, as a combination of our two brains, I'm going to bring it to you, but I will still say you need to go and watch his video, because there will be some people who absolutely loves how he does it, and he obviously has things up on the screen. At the moment, I've disconnected my camera from the computer. I'm getting ready to go away. You'll find out more about that at some point. I'm going to take you somewhere. But yeah, so I'll get on with it, shall I? So let's look at it like this, right? Bryan Kohberger, throughout this, he didn't fight to be, extradition. He wanted to go back as soon as possible from Washington to Idaho. Get it done. Let's get in there. Let me get exonerated from this. You know what I mean? And since then, we have seen the guy. He seems to be... Some people have said he's looked a bit scared initially, but from a courtroom perspective, he's always looked calm. He's always looked collected. He seems to have a decent relationship with Ann Taylor. And what's more important is that both Ann Taylor and Eliza Massath have both stated that not only is Bryan Kohberger innocent, but that it's been an honour to defend him, to be his counsel. And regardless of anything, it's important to understand that these are public defenders who have no responsibility to say that. Now, some people might say that that's strategic. I know that the naysayers will turn around and say, yeah, but when you're facing such an avalanche of evidence, sometimes these tactics can they can play on the public's mind and start saying, well, hold on, why do they think he's... Do you know what I mean? Again, tactical. But when we talk about this avalanche of evidence, we rarely have to ask the question, is it really an avalanche of evidence? Or in fact, is Bryan Kohberger being held with no evidence against him? And what we're rarely seeing here is a situation where law enforcement should have done more with what they claim to have and proven what they're saying they had before Bryan Kohberger actually found himself in the position that he's in. And is the fact that he is being held and has been held now for around a year and a half, is that a travesty? And is that showing that there are serious issues with the way that the legal system in Idaho is operating? But anyway, I've got some notes here to make sure I don't forget anything. Not in any form of order, they're just how they came into my ADHD brain. So look, we start with a car, right? The car. The white Hyundai Elantra. The white Hyundai Elantra that some people just can't... They don't seem to be able to read. And look, what I will say is this video is done... I'm doing it in as simplistic terms as possible. Not using fancy words or fancy graphics or fancy maps and things like that. I'm not putting the video behind $1,000 paywall and saying, if you want to see this video, do you know what I mean? I'm not claiming to be a brain trust, and you have to be a member of that in order to obtain the information or understand the information. Because what we're going to put to you today, and that is both myself and Jay Ombre, is that if you just got eyes and an open mind, you're not closed off, you'll be able to see the stuff right in front of you. But anyway, I digress. So the white Hyundai Elantra, in the PCA itself, it is stated that an FBI expert with 35 years experience basically identifies two different cars. He would identify the Elantra that is confirmed as being Bryan Kohberger's, as that is in Washington. Is it Nevada Road? Can't remember. Nevada Street. That he confirms as a 2014 to 2016 white Hyundai Elantra. But the other Hyundai Elantra, he states, is a 2011 to 2014 white Hyundai Elantra, as per the footage that he is given, and he is pulling the car from that footage. So you've got an FBI, professional who basically identifies two different cars. So I'd be interested to know who around this area, who are on the peripheral of the victims, do any of them have access to a 2011 to 2014 Hyundai Elantra, whether it be white or silver? And I'd also be interested, because a lot of people are still questioning this, as to whether Bryan Kohberger in fact did have a Hyundai Elantra. I can't see that he has. I'm not implying anything by this. I just feel that that would be quite interesting to know if he has a vehicle that is indeed a Hyundai Elantra. I know that some people have forwarded information showing pictures from Jack DeCure, whereabouts I think it's his parents live, and showing one on Google Maps, but there we go. No connection, no credible witness. So at the moment, and again, we're a year and a half down the track, we've got no connection between Bryan Kohberger and the witness and the victim. Sorry, no connection whatsoever. They've disputed and rubbed off stalking, which means they've got no evidence of stalking. They've looked for it. They've looked to see whether there's any online stalking, whether there's any way to connect Bryan Kohberger to these victims in any way, shape or form that could be pushed as a stalking narrative. And at this moment in time, there is no evidence of it. So if we back up a bit, we've got a Hyundai Elantra where an FBI specialist with 35 years training basically says in the PCA that there's two separate cars, different years. And you've got no connection to the victims at all. Now, they did say victims. Now, was there a connection to surviving roommates? Was there a connection to Bethany Funk? Who knows? But you know where I'm going with this. Touch DNA. Touch DNA. The touch DNA is a big one, because that's the thing what the vast majority of guilters believe is the nail in the coffin, so to speak. They believe that's it. That's got him sealed. His fate is sealed. But there is an issue with that, in that it ain't ever gonna go to trial, because they've just buried it. They've just buried the chain of command with it, chain of custody. They're just burying everything. They're talking about it. They're trying to go over it, and at the end of the day, it's something that isn't going to be put in front of the jury pool. It just ain't, because it just complicates things. And why does it complicate things? Because it doesn't make no sense. You've got Payne and Blaker, who were apparently at the scene of the crime, processing the crime together, yet one of them later finds the sheath, and the other one is later advised that a sheath was found by the forensics team. So you've got two guys processing a scene together, finding a knife sheath. Yeah, only one of them sees it, doesn't mention it, and the other one has to be told by another department that there was one found during the search. Well, that in itself is 100% going to support that this was planted. Not to mention that when they're trying to acquire search warrants, they basically state that they're still looking for not only a murder weapon, but a sheath for it. And the devil's in the detail here, because they are stating that they are looking for a knife and sheath to fit. People need to open their eyes, and they need to open their, I don't know, what they're willing to look and take into consideration, because people seem to be extremely, extremely closed off. And even if you're a guilter, you want Bryan Kohberger to be found guilty, you should be in a situation where you feel, look, the jury are going to be, hopefully, made up of non-biased, normal, regular people. And what are they going to think, for instance, if they hear that, oh, during the processing of the scene, one of the guys who was walking next to the other guy finds a knife sheath and doesn't mention it, doesn't even mention it, and the other guy has to be told by the forensics team, the ISP forensics team, that there was one found during the search. Don't you think that if they'd have found it, this eureka moment, that would have been shared? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. I've never done it myself, so I don't know. See, I've got the notes, and Pavarotti stated this. Payne stated he later noticed. Blaker stated was later informed by the ISP forensics team that was found. What the actual fuck? They're at the scene together. There we go. Won't even offer any corroborative evidence regarding the PCA, and the defence doesn't even know what's going on, which they don't. They genuinely don't know. And Taylor has basically said, we're yet to be shown why our client is here, because it just doesn't seem that there was an investigation done. Doesn't seem that they investigated everything they're claiming. So again, as a recap, a car that is in the PCA, proven by an FBI specialist that there's two cars, 2 different years, and a knife sheath that, what? Who found it? When was it found? Was it found? And if it was found, why were they still looking for it when they were acquiring search warrants? And no connection whatsoever, no stalking, no nothing. And a statement recently in one of the last court documents where the prosecution have stated that the PCA is irrelevant at this time. You're damn right it's irrelevant, because if people with half a brain read it, it absolutely proves that Bryan Kohberger was nothing to do with this crime. Or at very best, it has to be manipulated to such an extent to make him fit. Anyway, I've put here. However, there is proof of a fight that night. It's proof of a fight. So, Bryan Kohberger, you struggle to make him fit. Struggle to make him fit this entire situation. Like the phone situation, for instance, the phone pings. In the PCA, they have to use a lack of evidence as evidence to prove he was there. And again, the PCA literally states that Bryan Kohberger's phone was not in the area because they have no proof of it. No proof whatsoever. And it does beg the question as to why they wouldn't have tried to delve into that a little deeper. Would they have not gone to a specialist like Cy, for instance, and seen whether he could extrapolate upon the phone data, whether there would be any geofencing data, any GPS information on there to try and better because that's what Cy's job is. That's what he does. He works for prosecution teams to extrapolate on phone data to make it more I suppose appealing to a jury, it's better to say that, like in the Bryan Kohberger case, it would be better to say we have this specialist who is leading in his field and can say that Bryan Kohberger was at least 50 yards away from 1122 King Road, than to be able to go to the jury and say, well, we can't prove if he was there or not because it wasn't transmitting. The phone literally may not have been transmitting because he was Wawawi Park, which has shit signal, and it's actually somewhere where he would frequent regularly. Don't see it, don't do it. So yeah, like I say, we've got a situation where there was a fight. There's proof of a fight. Now, one of the surviving roommates, it would appear, witnessed it, and not only witnessed it, but potentially stayed behind after two of the victims left. And I would, again, I mentioned this yesterday, I would love to hear whether there was any threats made towards the victims during that period of time. Exculpatory evidence, remember. Remember that. Exculpatory evidence. What is the exculpatory evidence? That could simply be that she overheard someone threatening the victims, or one or two of the victims. And pair that with Steve Gonsalves stating that they didn't have to go upstairs, you've got yourself some serious questions there, haven't you? So what else have we got here? I've just put, do you know what I mean? The prosecution utilising a gag order and releasing specific things in order to poison the media, poison public perception. Do you know what I mean? The vast majority of people who have Bryan Kohberger pegged for this crime already, they're doing so off the back end of reports that have come out from the like of Dateline, News Nation. You know, you got the likes of Coffin Digger, all of these people who are steadfast in that Bryan is guilty. Again, I laugh and I bring this up, but they've had people coming out and saying he's an incel, he's a cannibal. I said this yesterday, and I keep going over it. I keep ramming it home because that's what we're up against. When in reality, there's not really been anything that's come out negative about Bryan. And in fact, there is evidence to dispute these claims. The claims that he was an incel. Every single fucking picture you see of the guy, he's standing there with a female. And we've seen his interactions with females. What we've seen on video with the police officer, he seemed respectful. Do you know what I mean? I just don't get it. But what I would like to know, the questions that I have is, again, and I mentioned this earlier in the video, who around this area, around the peripheral of this crime, drives a 2011 to 2014 Hyundai Elantra? What happened the night of this fight? What really happened? What is the exculpatory evidence which seems to be connected to Bethany Funk and her experiences during the night, which were unique to her? And unique to her, she was the only one of these, because it would appear that you've got Dylan Mortensen at the house. She was at the house, supposedly corroborating the return time of Xana and Ethan, which is directly disputed by the families, who say that they got back around 12. Well, straight away you've got an issue there, where you've got an hour and 45 minutes difference between when the families claim that two of the victims got home and when Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen are saying that they would have got home. It's a lot of things that raise questions. A lot of things that raise questions. And if you truly want to be, one for what's right and truth and justice for all, then in order to sit there now and say Bryan Kohberger did this, you absolutely believe he did it beyond a reasonable doubt, I don't see you as that. I see you as someone who is willing to overlook many, many things that would make a regular person sit back and say, do you know what? I need to see more. I need to see more. But with such a lack of evidence, such a lack of proof of anything, lack of proof, why is Bryan Kohberger still sitting inside after a year and a half? Surely law enforcement have a duty to do an investigation, get evidence against somebody, strong evidence, charge them, and then they go through the process. That's not what we've seen here. Not by a long shot. Let me know down below whether you agree or even if you disagree. And I'll catch you all in the next one.